Hey YouTube, Dark Magician of Team Sorcerers here, and welcome back to What If Wednesday. And this one is sort of a request by Express Gaming, and that is, what if 5Ds took place before GX, and GX took place before the original series? So it would be a weird number, but it would change quite a lot of things. One thing being, you say Jack, Stardust Dragon and Red Dragon Archfiend would be the faces of Yu-Gi-Oh! Instead of Blue Eyes White Dragon, Dark Magician, Yugi and Kaiba. It makes me wonder if I would have still got into the game or not. I guess maybe I still would have done. The other thing is, like, speed spells would have to be made into real cards as well. And, you know, we start off with two different ways of dueling, like the normal way and the turbo dueling way. You know, fingers crossed that it wouldn't be too confusing for new players. But in terms of synchro summoning, it would be easy to understand. Rituals wouldn't exist yet, considering no ritual monsters made an appearance in 5Ds, but fusion monsters did though, although only two fusions popped up: Multiple Piece Golem and Dragon Knight Draco Request. So fusions would still be around, but they wouldn't be seen as much as synchros, basically. And I guess the last few episodes probably still wouldn't be dubbed, which would be really odd and confusing. Same with that little arc where Jack obtains Red Nova Dragon. Either that, or they'd have to find a way to basically sort of redo those storylines and make it more suitable and allow it to be dubbed. Yeah, that's the only way around it. And everyone would understand the rules right away. They wouldn't be normal summoning high-level monsters without tributing. In fact, tribute summoning would still be around, but it wouldn't be much of a thing. Unless, of course, Monarchs would have still come out round about this time. Provided I did get into the game, Stardust Dragon would then become my favourite monster in the game, and my favourite synchro monster. Yeah, it would still be Express Gaming's, without a doubt, and yeah, we'd then be Stardust rivals, I guess. Yeah, my deck would solely be based on bringing it out. And I guess a lot of the synchro formats would still happen, with some minor differences. I mean, we'd still have Edison. I don't think Telidad would be a thing, because I'm not sure Dark Arm Dragon would even exist at this point. But we'd still get a lot of synchro archetypes, Stardust, Junk, Red Dragon Archfiend, Black Wings, Scraps, Morphtronics. Yeah, we'd still get a lot of the generic synchros very early on, and so yeah, that would be the 5Ds era would be the era that players would have grown up with, basically. There is one point where Duel Academy is mentioned, but would it even be called Duel Academy, or would it be something else, considering Duel Academy became a thing in GX? So that's another one to think about. The plot of Bonds Beyond Time would be slightly different. I mean, those events wouldn't happen yet, and probably wouldn't happen until Yugi's era. Pardon me. Other than that, the storyline would still be the same, and the plot would just basically be played out the same way. Going into GX, someone else would have had to have made Duel Academy, because in the original timeline, Kaiba is the one that creates Duel Academy. So I don't know who'd create it instead. Probably Yusei, and then there's the question of dorms. How would dorms even work? Originally, I was thinking maybe they'd be based off the Nordic gods, but there's no telling whether or not that would be confusing or not at this point. Oh, and sorry if you can hear any building work in the background. There's that going on nearby. Yeah, nothing I can do about that, I'm afraid. But yeah, like I said, maybe Yusei would make it. If they don't base dorms off the Nordic gods, then I'm really sorry about the noise. Maybe I should have gone somewhere else. I think what would more likely happen is that dorms would be based off the signature synchros of Yusei, Jack and Crow, so Stardust Dragon, Red Dragon Archfiend, and Black Winged Dragon. So we'd have the Stardust Dorm, the Archfiend Dorm, and I guess the Black Winged Dorm. The Archfiend Dorm would fill the role of Obelisk Blue, basically. Everyone would, almost all the all the students in that dorm would be jerks, and Chaz would be in it, and so would Alexis and Zane, I guess. But I'm not sure which dorm Jaden would be put in. I feel like it would make sense to put him in the Stardust dorm, but I don't think there'd really be a weak dorm, so to speak. I'd say Stardust and Black Winged would be on the same level, most probably. I don't know which dorm Bastion would go in, or Hasselberry. It's hard to say, but all the rivalries of that series would still happen. And also, the other difference would be, instead of Yugi's deck being put on display, it would be Yusei's deck instead, and Dimitri would steal that and try to be Yusei, and of course Jaden would still beat him. Oh yeah, speaking of, would Jaden even get Winged Karibo? It's hard to say. That's another thing I forgot to mention. So maybe Yusei would give Wing Karibo to Jaden instead? I'm not sure, because in the anime at least, Yusei doesn't play any Karibo cards. I know there is Junk Karibo, but that's a card he uses in the manga, I think. But, it does still sound like a card that Yusei would play. So, I'm pretty sure Yusei would give Wing Karibo to him. Other than that, I don't know. But they'd have to do something to basically make a note of Jaden being able to talk to Duel Monsters spirits. Sorry, this noise is really distracting. What was I going to say? I think, other than that, the plot of GX would still be the same, although I don't know about Kyber Corp. That's another thought. Who would even be creating the card? No, it's not Kyber Corp that creates the cards, it's Industrial Illusions. I mean, I guess Industrial Illusions would be created early, but Pegasus wouldn't be around until Yugi's time. So I guess it would still be made in the 5Ds era. Oh yeah, and I guess Neo Domino City would just simply be called Domino City, and still be a famous city in the Yu-Gi-Oh universe. But who would create the dual disc and dual runner technology in this timeline? I'm not sure, but well, whoever does would still be involved when everyone goes on the field trip to Domino City. Other than that, everything just basically stays the same. So now we move on to Duel Monsters era, which feels very backwards. Oh, but before we do though, fusions would become more of a thing. I guess synchros would still show up, but they sort of fall behind, and then fusions would see a lot more play. As for rituals, well, I feel like they'd have to make some appearances, although not many, and it would be considered the new summoning mechanic, even though fusions are more of a thing, unless of course they found a way to not include them at all, because Titan summoned a ritual, Bastion had Lithmis Doom Swordsman, and Alexis had the Cyber Angels. But I don't know, it would seem a bit weird to introduce a new summoning mechanic and not have it heavily represented in the series, so maybe rituals wouldn't show up at all, and Alexis just simply wouldn't play the Cyber Angels. In fact, the Cyber Angels probably wouldn't even exist at this point, not until Arc 5, and then Lithmis Doom Swordsman just wouldn't exist, and that ritual monster that Titan summons wouldn't exist. Right, now we move on to Duel Monsters, and rituals will actually come into this and be like the main new summoning mechanic, and we'd get the likes of Relinquished, Blackluster Soldier, Magician of Black Chaos, Paladin of White Dragon, Zera the Mant. So I guess Duel Monsters would be more heavily focused on that, and the main characters would run them. There's something else I didn't take into account, the extra deck limit. I mean, I feel like there'd be an extra deck limit sort of right away, or if not that, then maybe they'd put a limit on it before GX or before the Duel Monsters era. Although, right at the start would make more sense considering synchros are more generic than fusions are. So, yeah. So that would still be a thing, and if rituals become the new summoning mechanic, it probably means that Dark Magician wouldn't be Yugi's ace monster. It'd still be played, but I feel more like it would be either Magician of Black Chaos or Blackluster Soldier. But what about Blue Eyes? Would that still be Kaiba's ace monster? I guess maybe it would, and then it would have a rivalry with Blackluster Soldier or Magician of Black Chaos. Either that, or maybe Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon would be Kaiba's boss monster instead. I mean, that would actually make more sense. So yeah, that would be more of a thing, and I guess the duels would be played out a bit differently, and rituals would be more supported and made to be more consistent, because Konami would want to push rituals at this point. Either that, or maybe it would become a new extra deck mechanic. I don't know, and function sort of in a similar way to fusions. Either way, I feel like Magician of Chaos or Blackluster Soldier would be Yugi's ace monster, and Chaos Max would be Kaiba's ace monster. And in terms of non-ritual aces, Yugi's would still be Dark Magician, and Chaos Max would still be Kaiba's would still be Blue Eyes White Dragon. So yeah, either way, the ace monster just changes, and either Magician of Chaos or Blackluster Soldier would become my favourite ritual monster, and I would want to make a deck based around them. So other than that, the main storyline of the original series would still play out the same way, but with rituals more heavily involved. The duel results would still be the same thing. We'd still have the Duelist Kingdom plot, the Battle City plot with the gods, Virtual of Waking the Dragon, the Grand Prix, and Dawn of the Duel. Yeah, that's how things would more likely go. As for when Paradox comes into this, I don't know when he'd come into play. Maybe some point after Battle City, most likely, or the Grand Prix. And who would Paradox even steal? It wouldn't make sense to steal any of Yugi's monsters, because, well, all the Malefics are basically dragons, except for Malefic's Cyber End, but it's still a big robotic dragon. So what would happen is Paradox would fail to steal any of Yugi's monsters, but instead he would steal, like, Red Eyes Black Dragon and either Blue Eyes White Dragon or Chaos Max. God, can you imagine a malefic version of Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon? That would be nuts. So either way, Yugi would have to find a way to go back in time, although I'm not quite sure how he'd do it. Maybe the Crimson Dragon could probably come from the past and take Yugi. I don't know. Considering events would start happening in Yusei's time. Either way, besides the Order, the plot of Bonds Beyond Time would still play out the same way, pretty much. And then after that, everything plays out the same. So, yeah, in any case, Chaos Max and either Magician of Chaos or Blackluster Soldier would be the faces of Duel Monsters instead. But what about the final duel, though, between Yugi and Atem? Who would get to use Magician of Black Chaos? Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I guess the easy answer would be Atem gets Magician of Black Chaos and Yugi gets Blackluster Soldier. But I'm not so sure about that, because I heard somewhere that Blackluster Soldier is sort of a representation of Atem, while Karibo is sort of a representation of Little Yugi. So maybe a new ritual monster would come into play here that Yugi can use and overcome Magician of Black Chaos or Blackluster Soldier and win Yugi the duel. And yeah, that is pretty much my best guess, at least, on what would happen if 5Ds came before GX and GX came before Duel Monsters. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.